They said the bell hadn't rung since 1793, not since the last rector vanished and the church was sealed shut with rusted chains and a royal wax seal. But on the night of October the 2nd, 1838, as the wind screamed across the hills of Devonshire, the bell of St. Corwin's Chapel rang out. Once, twice, 13 times. The villagers of Halberd Hollow, a hamlet of fewer than 40 souls, heard it, even those furthest from the old hill. No one dared speak of it the next morning, but eyes were restless and prayers were whispered through clenched teeth. Only Jonas Fenwick, the village carpenter, had the nerve, or perhaps the foolishness, to walk up the hill the next day. He told his wife he was going to inspect the grounds, maybe prove to the village that the wind had simply knocked something loose. But when he returned at dusk, he wasn't the same. He didn't speak, didn't eat, just sat on the edge of the bed with his coat still on and his boots still muddy. His wife Clara tried gently to ask what he saw, but he only said, "The bell rope's gone, and the chain. Someone broke the chain." That night he tossed in his sleep, muttering something about a wooden door under the altar and a name carved in bone. By the next morning, Jonas Fenwick was dead. No wounds, no illness, just gone. The doctor claimed it was a heart seizure, but Clara knew better. That evening, the village children claimed to hear whispers in the wind coming from the chapel hill, voices repeating Jonas's last words. "He's still under the stone, and the book is open." The next day, a gathering was held at the edge of the village. No one dared go up to St. Corwin's, but everyone was thinking the same thing. Jonas stirred something that had no business being disturbed. Old Maribel Cross, the herbalist, a woman well into her 90s with cloudy eyes and a memory sharp as a carving knife, spoke what everyone feared to say. It was buried beneath the chapel for a reason. He warned them before. They didn't listen. They never listen. When asked who she meant, she said only, "The first Corwin, the one who came from the sea." That night, Clara Fenwick, stricken with grief, took a lantern and crept up to the chapel alone. She had to see it, the church where her husband's soul had unraveled. The gate was open, its iron hinges broken clean through. The stone steps up to the arched door were cracked and wet, as if something had clawed its way out, not in. Inside, the chapel stank of rot and wet soil. The altar had been moved, drag marks cut through the dust and moss. And just as Jonas described, there was a hatch beneath it, thick, wooden, sealed by old nails twisted with age. But the nails were pried loose. The hatch stood ajar. Clara's lantern light caught a ladder descending into pitch darkness, and scrawled across the wood above the door in a strange black substance were the words, "He waited for the bell." She should have turned and fled, but grief does strange things to courage. She descended, 10 steps down, 20. And then the smell hit her, salt water and ash. And at the bottom she found a room that should not have existed. A stone chamber, circular and dry, carved entirely with symbols from a language that didn't match any known scripture. At the center, lit by nothing yet glowing faintly, was an open book, bound in something not quite leather, resting on a pedestal of bone. And next to it were footprints in the dust. Fresh ones, bare, human, wet. She wasn't alone. Clara froze. The footprints led around the book, circling it like a ritual. Clockwise, then counterclockwise, over and over, as if something had been pacing, or waiting. She crept forward, eyes locked on the book. Its pages moved. Not from wind. There was no breeze down here. They turned slowly, like someone was flipping them from the other side. When they stopped, the page was blank, at first. Then letters began to appear, burning themselves into the parchment. One word, then another, until they formed a sentence. "You brought him back." Clara's breath caught in her throat. She stepped back toward the ladder, but it was gone. Not just out of reach, gone, as though it had never existed. Then came the voice, from nowhere and everywhere, dry, whispering, and cruelly amused. "I never left, Clara. She turned slowly. A man stood at the far end of the chamber, just outside the circle of light. Tall, wet, barefoot. His eyes weren't eyes at all. Just deep, shifting blackness, like ink dropped into water. He held something, Jonas's coat. Clara screamed, not from fear, not yet, but from rage. "What did you do to him?" The figure took a slow step forward. He rang the bell. That was the pact, the toll. You always pay the toll. Behind her, the walls began to tremble, stone grinding against stone as grooves lit up, glowing faintly red, like veins under skin. And then she saw them. Dozens of names etched into the stone around the chamber. Names of people who had lived in Halberd Hollow across generations. Some names she recognized, some that hadn't been spoken in a century. All of them connected by one thing. They had vanished. Just disappeared. And below the newest name, still forming, the stone hissed as it burned in the letters. Clara Fenwick. She ran, no door, no ladder, just screaming stone and growing heat and that terrible laugh echoing from the dark. But just before everything went black, the book slammed shut. And somewhere far above, for the second time in 45 years, the bell rang 13 times.